Elaine was 72, and that morning she stood at the top of the stairs, one hand on the wall, looking down at her house, as if staring into a maze with no exit boxes, were everywhere, big boxes, small boxes, boxes. She no longer remembered what was inside stacks of old newspapers covered in dust, a kitchen drawer stuck shut, because it was too full. Every single item in the house seemed to be taking up not just space, but what little strength she had left. Elaine couldn't even recall the last time she'd invited someone over, not because no one ever came by, but because she was ashamed. If they see my house like this, they'll think I've let myself go. They'll think I've given up. But that wasn't true. Elaine wasn't messy. She was just exhausted, too tired to bend down and pick up a piece of paper that had fallen from the table, too tired to open an old cabinet door without worrying the hinge might break. And every day she'd look around, then look away and tell herself, tomorrow, until the phone rang. It was Amanda, her granddaughter. Her voice chirped through the phone. Grandma, my friend and I are stopping by this weekend. Okay, we're passing through Michigan and just had to see you. Don't worry about cleaning, just rest. Elaine smiled a shaky little smile through the receiver, but when the call ended, she stood frozen. No one else heard her laugh because it had faded. The house, once familiar Nano, felt like a fortress of stuff everywhere. She looked something needed to be cleaned, but she had no strength left, no one to help. And I have no idea where to even begin, she said. I didn't have to clean, but if her friend walks into this, I don't think I can bear it. Elaine looked around. The chair is draped with a blanket. The dusty window, the kitchen is piled with unused gadgets, the closet filled with clothes from 20 years ago. Each item seemed to whisper, why are you still holding on to me? Elaine had 48 hours, not enough time, not enough energy to scrub every corner, but she also didn't want her granddaughter to see her stuck in the past. And then something unexpected happened. In just under 2 days, Elaine cleared nearly the entire house. No expert organizers, no help from her kids, no YouTube tutorials, no Marie Kondo, just 7 gentle, simple tricks anyone can do, even when you're tired, weak, and overwhelmed. Elaine said, I'm not a superhero. I just found something that worked for me at the moment I felt my weakest. If you've ever stood in a suffocating room like Elaine once did, consider subscribing. We don't teach you how to clean. We help you reclaim your space and a part of yourself. In the next part, you'll hear how Elaine began with the hardest part, decluttering. Tip number 1, $5 funeral, letting go. Without letting go, a tender way to release the belongings tied to loved ones who've passed while still keeping the memory alive. Elaine started in the living room, not because it was the messiest, but because it was the first thing anyone would see when they walked in. A once cozy room was now filled with cardboard boxes, old scarves, and half-finished knitting supplies. She opened one box and found a burgundy sweater, thick, warm, and still carrying a familiar scent. That sweater, her husband gave it to her during the last winter he was alive. Elaine held it to her chest and began to cry. I've kept it for 11 years, but every time I look at it, I don't feel warmth. I just feel like I haven't let go. She knew she couldn't move forward if she stayed frozen in front of every old item. That's when she remembered a tip she once heard somewhere: the $5 funeral, a gentle way to say goodbye to your past. She grabbed 5 boxes, labeled them clearly love, and use love, but don't use neutral, dislike, dreams that died. It sounded simple, but once she began picking up each item, she realized this wasn't just cleaning. This was a farewell to the life she used to live. The sweater, she no longer wore it, but it used to be her husband's way of saying, I'm thinking of you no matter how cold it gets. Elaine looked at it one last time, then gently placed it into paste of 5 dreams that died, not because she had stopped loving him, but because she knew keeping the sweater wouldn't bring him back. It would only keep her stuck for the other items. She didn't overthink. If she hesitated for more than 30 seconds, it went into the neutral box. If she smiled when she held it, she kept it. If she felt a lump at her throat, she placed a hand on her heart, said, thank you, and let it go. The more she sorted, the lighter she felt, not because there were fewer things, but because she was finally being honest with herself. I'm not betraying my past. I'm simply choosing to keep the purest parts of it. No one else needed to be there. No one had to witness it. Just her 5 boxes and a quiet kind of courage. If you're also holding on to something that makes your chest tighten just by touching it, try this method. You don't have to throw anything away right now. Just call it by its name and let time tell you what's meant to stay and what deserves a gentle goodbye. Next, we move to tip number 2, the replacement rule. 1 and 2 out. A simple rule that completely changed how Elaine viewed her kitchen. The next morning, Elaine stepped into the kitchen. It used to be her favorite place. The smell of freshly baked cookies, the sound of the kettle whistling, and a clean tablecloth every Monday morning. Now, it felt different, cabinet stuffed with marked drawers jammed, because she owned 3 blenders over 10 dish towels, but she only used 2. Elaine let out a sigh every time she opened a cabinet. She felt drained, not because things were too heavy, but because there were just too many, and many of those items were things she had once thought, well, I'll keep it just in case. But that just in case had lasted to 10 years, and she had never once needed them. Elaine used tip number 2. The replacement rule 1 and 2 out, a very simple rule for every item you keep you must let go of 2. She called it her fair trade law examples. Kept 1 dish towel. She gave away 2 old ones. Kept 1 favorite teacup. Donated 2 she rarely used. I received a new gift from her kids. Picked 2 similar items to pass along to someone else. No debating, no guilt. The rule was clear. If 1 comes in, 2 must go out. She started with the easy things: plates and bowls, kitchen towels, cups, and mugs. At one point, she chuckled to herself. I live alone, and I have 23 mugs. What was I thinking, hosting the entire neighborhood? She laid each item on the table, held it up, and asked, do I use this every day? Do I enjoy using this? Do I even want to wash this today? If the answer was no, it went out. The more she decluttered, the clearer things became, not just in her cabinets, but in her mind. I realized that owning less doesn't mean lacking. It helps me see more clearly what I use every day. Music. Now, every item around her had a reason to be there, no more, just in case things, only alive. And in use things. Elaine was ready for tip number 3, deadline declutter. Clean by time, not emotion. Because when emotions slow us down, time is the only way to stay decisive. By day 3, Elaine started to stall, not because she didn't know what to let go, but because every item brought back a memory, an old intention acquired maybe later, and later never seemed to come. Elaine realized if she kept thinking, she'd never begin. So she changed her strategy. She used tip number 3, deadline declutter. Clean like there's a deadline. I set a timer for 15 minutes each time. I focused on just one small area, and I didn't allow myself to hesitate too long. 15 minutes for the desk drawer. 15 minutes for the medicine cabinet. 15 minutes for the junk drawer in the bathroom. Each time the timer rang, she stopped even if she wasn't done. She called it decluttering with boundaries. No exhaustion, no overwhelm, no getting swept up in emotions. For example, in the medicine cabinet, there were bottles of vitamins that had expired back in 2018. She couldn't remember why she still kept them. Maybe it was the fear of waste, but now they were just trash. She tossed them out, no second thoughts, in the drawer. She found a rusty pair of scissors, pens that no longer worked, and a brand new notebook. Each item, if she looked long enough at a story, but she only gave it 15 minutes, no more. I don't need to clean perfectly. I just need to get it done. Elaine said the hardest part wasn't throwing things away. It was moving past the feeling of I'm someone who never finishes what I start. But when she broke time into smaller pieces, she realized she could begin again. The first 15 minutes, I just tossed scrap paper. Next 15, I dared to open a box of old photos. Eventually, I tackled the entire bookshelf without feeling overwhelmed. Deadline declutter doesn't ask you to finish everything in one day. It just offers you a small window to make a real decision. If you feel stuck because of emotion, try setting a timer, just 15 minutes, and see how much you can do when you stop giving yourself too much time to hesitate. Tip number 4, Sentimental Slaughter. Keep the memory. Not everything. The attic was the last place Elaine wanted to touch, not because it was packed, but because everything in it was something she once couldn't bear. To let go: an old trunk, a box of handwritten letters, a silk scarf from her mother, a painting her son made when he was 6, the wool sweater her husband wore in their last winter. Together, Elaine knelt, opened each item, and with everyone came a lump in her throat. She didn't cry. She just sat there quiet. Because some things aren't just objects, they're time itself. Elaine remembered tip number 4, Sentimental Slaughter. Don't keep everything tied to memory. Keep just one thing that holds the most beautiful part of it. I chose 3 items: my husband's shirt, the first letter he ever wrote me, and the hand-sewn handkerchief my mother made when I was little. The rest, Elaine took photos of them. She pasted those photos into a small notebook. Under each one, she wrote a few lines to capture the memory. She didn't need the physical object anymore, just a way to hold on to the feeling that let her move forward. I'm not forgetting, I'm just choosing not to let stuff hold me back. Some things she sent to her children or grandchildren with a note, some she gave away, and a few she placed her hand on, closed her eyes, whispered, "Thank you." And let them go not because they weren't valuable, but because they had already served their purpose. Do you have something that stirs your heart, but deep down you know it doesn't need to stay? Try taking a photo, write a small story. You're not losing anything. You're simply lightening your load. Tip number 5, future self filter. Keep what belongs to the person you're becoming. Elaine looked around her bedroom. The closet was still full. Each item had once been a part of her. A green velvet dress. She hadn't worn it in 7 years. A pair of high heels that hurt after 5 minutes. A workout set from when she used to go hiking every morning. Elaine held up each item, and instead of asking, "Did I used to love this?" she asked, "Does the person I'm becoming still need this?" That's when she applied tip number 5, future self filter. Declutter, not for who you were, but for who you're becoming. Elaine wrote down 3 honest truths. I want clothes that are soft, light, and easy to wear. I need everything to be easy to hold, fold, and find. I want everything around me to help me breathe easier. From that list, she began to choose again, not based on old memories, but based on her new path. She gave away dresses with back zippers, kept just one pair of shoes, the one she wore to walk around the house, donated the large cooking pots because she no longer cooked for big gatherings. I'm not the woman who used to stand in the kitchen all day. Now I'm someone who needs more rest and a lighter life. Future self filter didn't make her feel like she was finally making peace with who she is today. The house had changed, not bigger, not more modern, not fuller, just lighter. Everything that stayed was something that made her smile. Each corner had room to breathe, each drawer opened without a sigh. I used to hold on to things so I could still feel like I was here, but now I want to keep less so I can see myself more clearly. Are you holding on to something simply because you used to be that kind of person? Take a moment to look again. You don't need to prove anything to the past. You just need to live truthfully today. Tip number 6, duplicate destruction. Cut the duplicates, create the space. Elaine used to think her home wasn't cluttered. She didn't shop impulsively. She wasn't the hoarding type, but when she gathered things by category, she was shocked. 18 dish towels, 26 ballpoint pens, 11 pairs of scissors, 9 jars of menthol oil, 4 jar openers scattered across 4 different drawers. She thought she had only one of each, but once everything was laid out, she realized duplicates are the quietest space thieves. Elaine used tip number 6, duplicate destruction. Keep one, let go of the rest. I went through each category, kept the one I liked most. If I needed to, I keep one, back up the rest I gave away. She turned it into a game, gathered all her drinking glasses, placed them on the table, then asked herself, if I could only use one this week, which one would I choose? Whichever made her smile. She kept the ones that felt too heavy, hard to clean, or simply unused. She let go. She repeated this with tablecloth, scissors, utensils, plates, and bowls. No need to declutter the entire house at once, just one category each day. I was surprised. Just cutting out duplicates made the drawers glide better. Even the kitchen looked brighter. No need to sacrifice convenience. Just trim the unconscious excess. Do you have something you're keeping in 3s or 4s? Try pulling them all out. Keep one and notice the lightness that follows. Tip 7, legacy lockdown. Let go so they won't have to guess. Elaine wasn't afraid of dying. What she feared was the idea that when she was gone, her children would be sitting in her house guessing what each item meant. She had seen it happen to her sister, a home filled with memories, but no one knew what to keep or what to let go. Elaine didn't want that to happen again. So she used tip number 7, legacy lockdown. Limit the legacy so love doesn't become a burden. She asked herself, if I could only choose 10 things to tell my story, what would they be? She wrote them down: her wedding ring, a handkerchief from her mother, the old cookbook she used weekly, a framed winter photo of the family, a handwritten letter from her husband, a childhood craft from her son, the teapot she used every morning, a photo album with captions, her husband's favorite shirt, and a last birthday card from her daughter. Just 10 items. She labeled each one, wrote a short note on the back explaining why she kept it, not for dividing, but so my family knows each piece, each memory. Once he made me smile, the rest she donated to those who needed them. Some she quietly let go because now she had already shared the parts that mattered. Elaine said, I didn't keep everything. I only kept what I needed to say, and I said it while I still could. In the final part, you'll see Elaine didn't just declutter her house. She decluttered her life in a way that was calm, clear, and filled with love. If you had to choose just one item to tell your life story, what would it be? Try writing it down, because sometimes just giving it a name is already a step toward peace. Sunday morning, Elaine sat in the chair near the window, a warm cup of tea in her hand. Sunlight came through the white curtain, soft and gentle like a quiet touch the house had changed, not bigger, not more modern, not fuller, just lighter. Everything that stayed was something that made her smile. Each corner had room to breathe, each drawer opened without a sigh. Amanda and her friend came to visit. They both sat down on the couch, looked around, and her friend quietly said, "I don't know why, but this place makes me feel safe." Elaine didn't answer. She just smiled and poured more tea. For the first time in years, she welcomed guests without hiding anything. "I'm no longer ashamed of my home, because I've chosen to keep exactly what I need, and enough to show who I am." The house was no longer a burden. It was a resting place, a true place, a space empty enough for light to come in. Elaine, once a woman trapped in clutter, was now someone who had gently edited her life, not because she became someone new, but because she had lightened enough to see she could still live life on her terms. If you're looking around and things feel a little heavy, try starting with just one drawer, with one item you haven't touched in a while, with one simple question: who am I keeping this for? And why? You don't need to fold fast, you don't need to rush, you just need to be honest. And begin at your own pace. If this journey touched something in you, please consider subscribing to the channel. We are deeply grateful for the chance to walk this path with you. You deserve to live lighter. You deserve to sort through your life with the kindest, most gentle hands, no matter what age you are. Thank you for staying until the very end. Thank you for letting us be part of your journey. And if you can please keep walking with us in the next video, take care, and we'll see you soon.